The flames licked the edges of the heavy parchment. They curled the intricate ink drawings into black ash. Maya screamed. Her knees hit the cold stone floor hard as she scrambled toward the fireplace. That wasn't just paper burning. That was her father's surgery money. Those were her months of sleepless nights, turning into smoke. Standing over her was Vance. The lead contractor adjusted his expensive silk tie and just smirked. He looked down at her and sneered. He asked what a poor little assistant's sketches were actually worth anyway. He held the rest of her binder over the fire. He was about to let it drop. Then, a heavy hand clamped down on his wrist. It was the old janitor. And the look in the old man's eyes wasn't that of someone who just mopped floors for a living. It was the look of a predator about to snap a steel trap. Before we get into what happened next, you have to understand something about the world. Sometimes arrogant people think money gives them the right to burn someone else's dreams. But if you believe that justice always finds a way, drop this exact phrase in the comments right now. I believe that integrity and kindness are always recognized and rewarded by God. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. You really won't want to miss how this plays out. To understand how we got to this boiling point, you have to know Maya. She wasn't anyone important on paper, just a junior restoration assistant at the old Detroit Manor project. But she had a real gift. While the expensive architects used software to slap together generic historical designs, Maya sat in the dust for hours. She drew every missing ancient tile by hand. She studied the faded patterns until her fingers cramped and bled. She wasn't doing it for fame. Her dad was lying in a hospital bed across town. He had worked construction his whole life until his heart gave out. He needed a bypass surgery she absolutely couldn't afford. The hospital was threatening to discharge him. By the end of the month, this restoration project was her golden ticket. If she could just get the Heritage Board to see her authentic designs, she'd get the lead restorer bonus. That money meant her dad would live. Then, there was Vance. The guy drove a leased sports car and treated the site crew like absolute garbage. He hated Maya. He hated that a girl in thrift store work boots understood the architecture better than he did. With his fancy degree, he wanted the massive bonus for himself to cover his gambling debts. But Vance wasn't the only one watching Maya work. There was an older guy in a faded gray jumpsuit who always seemed to be sweeping the same hallway. He brought a little girl with him. Sometimes, she was deeply terrified of loud noises. Whenever a drill started up, the little girl would hide behind the old man's leg, shaking. Most of the crew ignored her. Some even complained she was in the way of the heavy machinery. Not Maya. During her short lunch breaks, Maya would sit on the dusty floor. She would slide her colored pencils across the marble to the little girl. She taught her how to draw the sun using the ancient style. To calm her down, she told the little girl that the sun always comes out, no matter how dark it gets. Maya didn't know the old man sweeping near them was watching every single interaction. He saw her infinite patience. He saw her pure heart. He saw the intricate, brilliant details in Maya's sketchbook. Fast forward to presentation week. The National Heritage Board was flying in. There was a multi-million-dollar grant on the line. Maya had stayed up for 3 days straight, perfecting the master blueprint. It was an absolute masterpiece. She even included a secret signature in the design. It was a hidden sun emblem, woven into the south wall's mosaic. It represented the exact historical era of the original builders. Only a true historian would know it was there. She left the binder on Vance's desk for final approval. That was the biggest mistake of her life. When she walked into the makeshift office the next morning, her binder was gone. Vance was standing by the fireplace, holding her original sketches. He looked at her and laughed. He told her the board didn't want to hear from a nobody. He was claiming the entire restoration design as his own. When Maya lunged for the papers, she was crying. She begged him to give them back, telling him about her dad's surgery. Vance didn't even flinch. He told her that her sob story wasn't his problem. He tossed the first batch right into the open flames. And that brings us right back to the moment the janitor stepped in. The old man's grip was like a vice on Vance's wrist. Vance yelled at him to let go, calling him a filthy old man. He threatened to have him fired. Before lunch, the janitor didn't raise his voice. He didn't even blink. He just calmly pulled the remaining sketches from Vance's hand. He handed them back to Maya. Then he looked at Vance and told him he had a meeting to get to. Vance scoffed, adjusted his suit, and stormed out toward the boardroom. He was convinced he had already won. He still had the digital copies of Maya's designs, and on his tablet, he was about to present them to the highest authorities in the restoration world. Maya collapsed onto a chair, sobbing into her soot-stained hands. She told the old man he shouldn't have done that. She said now they were both going to lose their jobs. The old man just handed her a clean handkerchief. He told her to wipe her face. He said sometimes the loudest people in the room are the ones with the most to lose. He told her to gather her remaining drawings and follow him to the boardroom. Maya thought he was crazy. A janitor and an assistant crashing a multi-million-dollar pitch? But there was something in his steady voice that made her stand up. The heavy oak doors of the boardroom were closed tight. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of expensive cologne and freshly brewed espresso. Vance was pacing back and forth in front of a massive digital screen. He was wearing his best smile. He pointed confidently at the intricate sun emblem Maya had designed for the south wall. He told the board members that this specific design was his own stroke of genius. He claimed it took him months of deep historical research to perfectly capture the essence of the ancient architecture. He spun a beautiful lie about staying up late into the night, studying forgotten archives. The men and women in tailored suits nodded in quiet approval. They were completely buying his act. Vance was seconds away from securing a multi-million-dollar contract. He was about to get a massive personal bonus that would erase all his hidden gambling debts. He could already taste the victory. He leaned over the polished mahogany table, ready to sign the final authorization papers. Then, the doors suddenly swung open. The heavy wood slammed against the wall with a loud thud that made everyone jump. The entire room fell completely silent. Everyone turned around in their leather chairs. The old janitor walked in slowly. He wasn't holding his mop anymore. His posture had completely changed. He wasn't hunched over like a tired old man. He stood tall, radiating an undeniable sense of authority. Maya stepped in, right behind him. She was clutching her half-burned sketchbook tightly to her chest. Her hands were covered in black soot. She was shaking uncontrollably, but she stood her ground. Vance stopped dead in his tracks. His smug smile vanished instantly. His face turned the color of wet chalk. He immediately started shouting, completely losing his professional composure. He demanded to know who let the cleaning staff into a high-level executive meeting. He grabbed the phone on the table, threatening to call security and have them both thrown out of the building. He called Maya a desperate thief who was trying to sabotage his presentation. But the old man didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He simply walked to the front of the room, right past Vance. He looked at the digital screen, specifically at the sun emblem Vance was just bragging about. When an arrogant liar starts to panic, you can always see it in their eyes. They realize they have dug a hole they cannot climb out of. If you believe that justice always finds a way to expose the truth, drop this exact phrase in the comments right now. I believe that integrity and kindness are always recognized and rewarded by God. The old man turned his attention to the head of the National Heritage Board. He calmly asked Vance to explain the historical significance of the 12 rays surrounding the sun emblem. Vance stammered. He aggressively loosened his expensive silk tie, suddenly feeling very hot. He threw around a bunch of big, empty architectural words that meant absolutely nothing. He said it was just a stylistic choice to make the building look more dramatic for modern tourists. The old man shook his head slowly. He reached into his faded pocket and pulled out a small, heavy brass coin. He placed it gently on the oak table. It was an authentic ancient artifact, bearing the exact same sun emblem, but with 13 rays. The old man looked Vance dead in the eye. He explained that the original builders used 13 rays to represent the lunar calendar of their specific era. He pointed out that the 12th ray in Maya's drawing on the screen was intentionally broken. It was a secret watermark. Maya had created it to prove the design was an original, modern restoration, not a direct copy of a photograph. Only the brilliant mind who actually drew it by hand in the dust would know that detail. Vance was completely speechless. He was sweating profusely, wiping his forehead with a trembling hand. He tried to laugh it off, calling the old man crazy. He looked at the board members, desperately expecting them to call security. Instead, the chairman of the board stood up very quickly. His heavy chair scraped loudly against the floor. He buttoned his suit jacket and bowed his head slightly, with deep respect. He said, "It is an absolute honor to finally have you join us, Mr. Richard." Maya gasped. She looked at the old man in the faded gray jumpsuit. Richard wasn't just a janitor who swept the hallways. He was a billionaire archaeologist. He was the primary owner of the entire National Heritage Project. He was the very man funding the multi-million-dollar grant Vance was trying to steal. Vance's legs literally gave out from under him. He collapsed into the nearest chair, staring at Richard in absolute horror. His entire world was crumbling down, in real time. Richard turned to Vance with a look of pure disgust. He explained that he always disguised himself on his own work sites. He did it to see how the people at the bottom were truly treated by the people at the top. He did it to teach his terrified little girl that the world isn't as scary as it seems when you find the right people. He told Vance that he had watched him abuse the hardworking crew for weeks. He watched him take credit for other people's blood, sweat, and tears. And today, he watched him try to burn a young woman's future, just to cover his own selfish debts. Richard didn't raise his voice, but his words hit like a sledgehammer. He told Vance he was fired, effective immediately. But losing his job was the least of his problems. Richard informed him that stealing intellectual property and destroying original heritage documents was a serious federal crime. The board's legal team had already contacted the authorities. The police were waiting for Vance in the lobby. Right now, Vance tried to apologize. He literally begged on his knees, crying about his debts and his ruined reputation. He pleaded for a second chance. Richard simply turned his back on him. He let the security guards drag Vance out of the room. Vance's pathetic excuses echoed down the hallway until the doors closed. Then, the atmosphere in the room completely shifted. The heavy, toxic tension evaporated. It was replaced by something incredibly warm and profound. Richard turned to Maya. He looked at her soot-stained hands and her tear-streaked face. He told her that her talent for restoration was extraordinary, but he said her real gift was her pure heart. He thanked her for sitting on the dusty floor and teaching his daughter how to draw the sun. He thanked her for showing a scared little girl that kindness still exists in a harsh world. He gently took the half-burned sketchbook from Maya's hands. He turned to the board and declared that Maya was no longer a junior assistant. He officially appointed her as the Supreme Director of the Fine Arts Museum. It came with a massive signing bonus and full creative control. It was more than enough to pay for her father's bypass surgery in full. Today, it was enough to secure her family's future and give them absolute financial freedom. Maya broke down in tears of pure relief and overwhelming gratitude. The weight of the world had finally been lifted off her shoulders. When that golden key to the ancient manor was placed in Maya's trembling hands, it was a moment of pure magic. If you are celebrating this beautiful victory with her, drop this phrase in the comments. Right now, I believe that integrity and kindness are always recognized and rewarded by God. You see, life has a funny way of balancing the scales of justice. Flames might be able to destroy a few pieces of paper. Arrogance might momentarily overpower the weak and the tired, but the fire of truth and the quiet strength of human dignity will always burn brighter than any cheap trick. Fathers who work hard and endure the dirt to build a better life for their kids are the real heroes. People who plant seeds of love, empathy, and patience, even when they have nothing, will eventually harvest miracles. Maya didn't just save a historic building from being ruined by a fraud. She saved her father's life, and she healed a little girl's spirit. Never let anyone tell you that your hard work goes unnoticed. Keep your head down, do the right thing, and watch how the universe steps in to fight your battles. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it touched your heart, please hit that subscribe button to help us spread more warmth and inspiration. And don't forget to leave your final declaration in the comments. I believe that integrity and kindness are always recognized and rewarded by God. Stay strong, stay kind, and I will see you in the next video.